afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another Propagandacast. Lehr, my host, Imperial Dane. And we're going to be having a look at the MG34 heavy machine gun team here. A doctrinal unit, part of the fortifications doctrine, and the Luftwaffe ground forces commander as well. And it's essentially, you know, probably the cheapest machine gun team in the game. 210 manpower. One command point you can get sort of relatively early into the game. 4-man crew, pretty standard German, though there's slight differences. It's not with submachine gunners, which rather already put sort of a few limitations on it, since the submachine gunners can actually be sort of close. Strap the riflemen don't really quite pull the same level of duty, if you will. And of course you have the MG34 itself, which overall, you know, follows the same rules as the MG42, except it does noticeably less damage and less suppression, though again, mostly a lot less damage, which overall sort of limits its really effectiveness, in particular on its own. And generally with the MG34 you do really need some other units to sort of kill stuff. I mean, it's not really, you know, it can sort of hold back a unit, but won't really punish your opponent for running into it, compared to, say, the MG42. Even up close, whereas the MG42 sort of up close can actually, you know, lay down a rather serious smackdown upon your opponent. It certainly also means, for example, versus unit in a building, I mean, it's going to make absolutely no impression upon your opponent. It does have access to the intended armor-piercing rounds, just like the MG42, so in that regard, there are similarities, but rather there they sort of largely stop. I mean, veterancy-wise, it's sort of the same with the first 3 levels. Veterancy 4 becomes a bit tougher, and Veterancy 5, you know, it's pretty much just Veterancy 3 all over again. So that's a bit there sort of for you to keep in mind over the MG34, but overall you should consider it a less powered MG42 in many regards, which also means, you know, you have to be a lot more careful. Again, you know, it's not going to be strong on its own. And again, up close, you know, it just doesn't make much of an impression upon your opponent. It certainly doesn't quite have the ability to, say, you know, cut down your opponent's troops on the retreat either, say, fully to the extent of the MG42 either. So it lacks a bit of, you know, that punishing aspect as well, which is a bit unfortunate. And again, you know, very much work it with the units much more than it would with the MG42. I mean, again, I'd never recommend, you know, sort of fully leaving it on its own, but in comparison, MG34 on its own is much weaker, and it's really much more dependent, because again, it does very little damage, reasonably little damage compared to the MG42. I mean, it's not going to be completely useless, but, you know, it's going to be having some minor issues. And certainly versus lighter vehicles as well, it's not, say, going to be fulfilling the same duties fully as the MG42. So that is something vital to keep in mind. I mean, you know, it's still better to get than seeing a Kubelwagen, since, you know, it actually sort of serves the role properly of a heavy machine gun. And certainly, if you want a heavy machine gun, as your Commander West, I'd recommend again getting out an MG34, or, well, stealing it from your opponent, really. And again, as the cheaper of the MGs, I mean, you know, it does allow you to sort of maybe get a few more, at least get them up earlier, and certainly also hurt your left getting them. But again, at that price cost, you're very much getting something that won't do an awful lot of impression upon an opponent. And I certainly haven't seen a lot of MG34s gain a lot of veterancy, to be honest, compared to an MG42, which is rarely sort of gaining no sort of serious veterancy. The MG34 gets it even less. I mean, I've certainly never seen an MG34 reach veterancy 5, even 4. I don't think I've actually seen them reach veterancy 3. So, I mean, there are some rather hefty limitations there already on the MG34, which, again, very important to keep in mind. I mean, again, you're very much paying for a suppression almost only weapon, not really a lot of damage compared to anything else. And again, the support gunners don't really act much, particularly up not close to your opponent, might be closing in compared to the other, certainly they didn't do much either. So, I mean, overall, that's really it. I mean, otherwise, you know, a lot of the same MG tactics from other MGs, in particular the MG42, you know, largely apply. But again, you keep in mind, and again, that's really the thing again, it doesn't do frightfully much damage. It doesn't have a lot of durability. Again, it's very much a weapon you really have to be careful with on its own. Though again, does reasonable amounts of suppression. And again, you know, one of those hallmarks I would say is basically effect again. You know, you rarely actually see them gain any sort of serious veterancy compared to any other machine gun in their game. I mean, particularly compared to a 50 caliber, which rather often reaches, say, veterancy 3, or an MG42, which occasionally reaches veterancy 3. I mean, an MG34 maybe never. I don't know. Again, I don't recall them ever reaching veterancy 3 in any replay I've watched. I mean, that's something to very much keep in mind. And again, I mean, generally you want other units to work with it if you really want to, you know, take effect of the suppression, sort of really punish your opponent. Because again, remember, and again, you know, that's again very vital to remember, units that are suppressed become a lot less accurate. So again, you know, if you say you have a unit suppressed, you can easily then charge in with some units to clean. Again, you know, keep that in mind. Suppression makes units less accurate and allows you to close in. So for example, an MG34 with an Pursuit Pioneer unit is a reasonably solid combination. You have the MG34 suppress the bastards, close in, sort them up, because again the defenders won't be able to sort of fire back a lot better. So raw, I think that really covers it with the MG34. So I hope you've got a clear idea of the MG34, how to use it, how not to use it, how to get the most out of it, and of course how to deal with it, because again in many regards it is very weak and a bit frail. So there you go. Thanks for watching. Hope you learned something. If you did, feel free to subscribe or tell your friends, or for that matter, remove ad block if you use it. At least on this video, these videos. This is Imperial Dane saying cheers and see you all another day.